Please rise in body or spirit in singing it. On the great hymnal number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. And we're gonna do this. We'll sing it first in unison, and then the second time we'll do it as a two-part round, and you can follow this side or this side. And then the third time we'll do it as a three-part round. So you have a choice of these people singing the first part, these people singing the second part, or these two singing the third part. So.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, come, whoever you are, ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come yet again, come.
We gather here again this morning. We gather our stories, we gather ourselves, and we gather our names. We gather as a church united by values rather than beliefs. We gather as a community that holds love at the center. Come, let us worship together.
I invite Peter to come forward and light our chalice, and please join with us in lighting our chalice by saying the chalice lighting words found in your order of service and shared online in the chat. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Thanks, Peter. And good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden. My name is Tim, and I'm glad to be your worship leader today. The UU Church is a welcoming, inclusive place where diversity of thought is encouraged, sought, and appreciated. It doesn't matter who you love or how you identify yourself. We come here because we want to think for ourselves and explore with others. We ask questions, value the exchange of ideas, and the depth that can come from being in community. Newcomers, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We encourage you to fill out a newcomer card in the pews and put it in the offering basket when it comes by later. And please stay and chat with us after the service across in the gymnasium. And if you're joining us online, please fill out the newcomer card online. Our speaker today will be Nitai, right up here, who will be talking about names, the name of this church and names. We love having people of all ages in this community. As you came in, we hope you saw the basket of activities for hands that like to stay busy. This is for all of you of any age. We welcome all the wiggles and sounds of a multi-generational community. And if you haven't already, please put your phones on silent mode. We're so glad each and every one of you came today, and welcome.
Meeting new people is challenging for me because every time I do it, the person I'm meeting always expects me to tell them my name, which for me is always an ordeal. Names are complicated, at least mine is. And so anytime names come up, I know that I am in troubled water. I've tried to get around it with limited success. When I met my fiance 12 years ago, I told him, "You can call me Sean." "Sure," he told me, "I can call you that, but is that actually your name?" And it is, in a sense, but it's not exactly my name. The name my parents gave me is Nikki, Nikki. I was named after the co-founder of Motley Crue, Nikki Sixx. Fortunately, my mother talked my father down from Sixx to Sean, hence the name I gave my now fiance, for which I am grateful. But Nikki Sean isn't my real name. I only ever use it when signing legal documents or ordering coffee. My name is Nitai. At least that's what I tell you, but that's what I tell people. It's easy, it's memorable. There's a song and dance I might have done for you when I first met you. It's knee like your body and high like your fancy. But that's not my real name. Nope. I rarely ever use my real name, and I never hear it from the mouths of others. My name, given to me when I was accepted into my religious tradition 15 years ago, is Nityananda-rama. In Sanskrit, the language of the Vedas and the language of the Bhagavad Gita, it means the servant of constant joy. It's a name or an attribute of divinity in my Vaishnava tradition. And because my name is Nityananda-rama, when I notice a sunset over the Great Salt Lake or the snow glowing in the moonlight, or I feel the fulfillment there we go, of connecting with a new person, and I feel the delight of existence permeating my body, sparked by a spark of the divine. I feel whole because my name means that I am a servant of that joy. Nitai, the name I give when asked, with song and dance, is a compromise. It is a name for you, not for me. You probably don't speak Sanskrit. You probably know very little about medieval Bengali Vaishnavism or modern Sri Vaishnavism. I am probably the first and possibly the only Vaishnav you will ever meet. So when I lead with my real name, my full name, my whole name, Nityananda-rama, without song or dance, with no etymology or crash course in Indian history, I lead with the parts of myself that you might not understand. I lead with parts that may be incomprehensible to you. When I use my real name, I take away common ground that we might use to build connection. I build barriers rather than bridges. And in doing so, I dishonor my name. But because my name is so complicated, I know that I am not my name. My name is not who I am. I am not Nikki or Nityananda. I'm not Sean or Nitai. Those names, each of them, are just stories I tell about myself.
So we call this place a church. We call this institution we're at right now the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden. I've always had mixed sentiments about the word church. Growing up in Nebraska, the most outspoken religious strain I remember was fundamentalism, Christian fundamentalism. Fundamentalism to me seemed somehow empty, a little fake maybe. The preachers preaching hellfire and damnation, the over-the-top emotions, Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, the PTL Club, if that rings a bell with anybody. To me, that was the church, and I didn't connect with it. Church lady, that old Dana Carvey character from Saturday Night Live, embodies how I viewed the word church. So when I talk to my family or someone and I say, I went to church or I'm going to church, it feels slightly amiss. I associate church with what I view as the theatrics of fundamentalism. And still, I try to move beyond that. A solemn Catholic Mass doesn't even equate to church in my mind. It seems somehow more dignified. I don't know. Yet here I am. This is a church, and I'm here. Makes me consider, what is a church? Traditionally, a church is a place of worship, but that word worship also doesn't sit quite right with me. I'm not here to worship anybody. So what is a church? I guess in the end, a church is a place where you contemplate, wrestle with spirituality, seek a deeper meaning beyond the everyday travails and pressures of life. Some people refer to nature, the outdoors, as a church. It's a place where they can think, unencumbered. So I guess I'll go with that. My grandma was a devout Catholic, sent my dad and his brother to Catholic schools throughout high school. After that, they went to Catholic colleges, at least for a while. Years later, my dad drifted from the Catholic Church, ended up at the Unitarian Church, which is how I got here. And I remember my grandma bringing his church move up with me one time. Didn't seem to bother her. She said she was just glad he had found a place where he could settle his spirit, or something to that effect. So if church is the word for this place, so be it. Words can be strange when you parse them, repeat them over and over, overthink them, but church it is.
A few weeks ago, when our minister, Kristen, was in town, a group of us got together to go through our church storage. As we gathered, like little archaeologists ready to dig at an excavation, we began to pick up some odd bits of our history. One box we broke into had an email that started with the line, "I have written a number of short articles on spoons." And sure enough, along with it, there was a homemade book with photographs pasted in called Spoons Full of History, an exhibition on Hawaiian souvenir spoons. Okay. There was a mammoth candle, I'm told, once stood in our sanctuary, and a box with 1,000 tea lights that someone had found a great deal on. We found orders of service dating back to when our church was incorporated, where we had already began to use the hymn, "From you I receive, and to you I give," during the offertory, perhaps the only consistent thing about our church. But among the piles of candles and books on silverware, we found names on newsletters and meeting minutes and old orders of services, names of people I have heard of but never met. Catherine Zublin, who it sounds stitched every piece of fabric to have ever touched this table. Evelyn Bertelson, a longtime board member and beloved Alpha Church lady. Names of people who still attend. Karen Thurber depositing the last mortgage check on our old building. Marilyn Johnson singing the praises of our joyful congregation. But one name showed up over and over on almost every document we found. Our name, the name of this church. And on the oldest documents, buried deepest in the pile, I learned, like me, this church no longer uses the name it was given at its birth. In the 90s, when we first incorporated, we were the Unitarian Universalist Society of Ogden. And this got me thinking, because growing up in an evangelical, non-denominational Protestant church, there was this standard sermon you would get every once in a while about what a church meant. And it went something like this. What do you think when you hear the word church? For most people, when they hear the word, they think of a building with a spire and stained glass. People think of pews and pianos and podiums. But that, we were told, was not the true meaning of church. A church is not the place you meet or the organization that gives it legitimacy. No, a church is the people who gather there. A church is butts in pews, knees on kneelers, and the hands that grasp each other in greeting each morning. And it matters, said the preacher, how you define church. Because if what a church means to you is a building, then care for the church means coming in and scrubbing toilets, vacuuming halls, and painting walls. But if the church is the people, then caring for the church means caring for each other. It means visiting each other when we are sick. It means making friends with each other over coffee and cookies. It means holding the cares and concerns, the hopes, the fears, and the joys and sorrows of community. And so, seeing those old newsletters and orders of service with the name society, I had to wonder, what do we mean when we call this place a church? To me, in many ways, society feels more appropriate. It sounds a little more secular, a little more professional. It reminds me of the Greek word ecclesia, so often brought up in my church sermons, that is used in the Christian Bible to refer to the church, but originally meant an assembly or gathering, like a political body or a trade union. When I hear society, I think of a community aligned in goals and actions, which I appreciate, as I often joke that Vaishnavism is my religion and Unitarianism, Universalism is my political party. Like Tim, because I am an agnostic Hindu, I struggle with the word, the name, church. When I tell people I'm going to church or a meeting for church, I feel like I'm lying because the name church does tell a story that goes beyond a simple house of worship. Jews have shuls and synagogues, Muslims have mosques and masjids, Hindus have temples and satsangs, Christians have churches, and churches have baggage. In the common imagination, or perhaps just mine, the word church comes with hierarchy and dogma. And for many, especially with the rise of Christian nationalism in this nation, the name church can carry connotations of small-mindedness and exclusionary practices. When I tell someone I go to church, it feels a little bit like when I call myself Nikki when I order coffee. There's a truth in it, but a truth so small it begins to feel like a lie. And I understand why church is important to use. It shares important information. The worship here, in form if not content, is unmistakably Protestant. Things here are really pretty churchy. This is not how worship flows in temples or gurudwars. Historically, it's also fitting to call ourselves a church. Unitarians, Universalists, have Christian roots, and many who gather here are Christian. Unitarians and Universalists both met in churches, and both groups use those churches to share values that modern UUs still hold. They rejected creeds and confessions in favor of freedom of religious thought. They laid aside tradition and hierarchical authority and adapted the use of reason in formulating religious belief. They advocated for tolerance of different religious views and customs in worship and polity. And maybe a story I can tell when I tell someone that I go to church is the story of those spiritual ancestors from who we inherited the name church, along with Unitarian Universalist. And the word church might not feel perfect, but it's recognizable. In a time when many are deconstructing their faiths and searching for progressive and inclusive spaces, it helps people find us in a world that doesn't always make space for those seeking alternative faith communities. Calling ourselves a church, a UU church, sends a message. We are here for those with questions, for those on journeys, and those for whom old models no longer work. Recently, I've been trying to find out why we changed our name from a society to a church. And it sounds like we became a church for the same reasons that I became Nitai instead of Nityananda. Because even if it doesn't tell our whole story, even if it leaves out much of what makes us us, it opens us to connection. It starts with common ground. It opens the door to deeper conversation about who we are and what we do. Because of my name and its challenges, I know that the names that we use for the sake of others and not for ourselves. Names are just stories we tell about ourselves. And I hope that the story we're telling when we call ourselves a church is one of care, inclusion, and the courage to wrestle with complexity together. We begin now to move into a time of quiet and contemplation, which feels very needed right now. This week has been challenging. Every day, we have seen attacks on truth and justice. We have seen the denial of biology, psychology, and humanity. We have seen coordinated attacks on diversity and plurality that we as a church hold as core values. We have seen environmental protection rolled back, even as Los Angeles burns, and Mount Ogden is at 45% of its annual average. We have seen our friends, our family, our community, and ourselves struggle with the fear of uncertainty, instability, and growing intolerance as we watch the news with horror. In times like this, it can feel impossible to hold the weight of our emotion and the breadth of our experience within a pluralistic community. And yet, this is what we strive to do, to make space for grief and hope, for fear and resilience, for despair and transformation. As we enter this time of prayerful reflection, I offer these words by A.J. Van Tyne, a prayer for when everything crumbles to dust. Great mystery which surrounds us, small spark of life and possibility that lives within us even when all else falls to dust. Be with us in our confusion, our fear, and even despair. Lead us to navigate them as slowly as possible, resisting the impulse to soothe, to blame, to seek things that feel better than the hurt and the heaviness, but which ultimately leave us isolated or complacent or too suspicious of each other. Let us not flee from our grief, but allow our hearts to be broken open again and again, grieving for all that has been lost and all that is threatened now. Spirit of life and love and regeneration, help us feel the wisdom in our bodies, even with so much going so wrong. Our hearts beat with gratitude for blessings, for beauty and joy stubbornly breaking through, for the compassionate companionship of community, which welcomes all that we bring with us in these times and does not ask us to be smaller than we really are. For solidarity and mutual aid, for the trees and the wind and the stars, their cosmic witness soothing our animal souls, reminding us of the deep impermanence and the deep interconnectedness of all things. Spirit of transformation, may our hearts break open and stretch out to join with the hearts of others who yearn for a freer world. Each heart a building block for a better society, each life lived for hope and resistance, a prayer for a nobler world. Amen. Blessed be Hari Om Tat Sat. If you would join me now in singing hymn 318 in the gray hymnal, We Would Be One, followed by a moment of silence before we continue with our worship.
We continue our collective prayer by coming forward to engage in our weekly ritual that helps us to collectively hold the challenges and joys of being human. As you light a candle, let it hold your hopes, memories, and gratitudes for this beautiful, complicated world and for our lives. And as you drop a stone in our sacred gathering waters, may it be an opportunity to imagine those burdens and quests for forgiveness held in a community that will let the stone land with care and intention. Please come forward. We are so grateful to be in a community where we can share our resources to live out our vision in the world. Our offering each Sunday is a testament to the value of this community and our lived values. Now, please join in calling for the offering. And if I could get a couple volunteers. Need to. Peter, thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. And now please rise and body your voice and facing the center aisle, sing together the offering song printed in your order of service. Thank you for giving. This offering helps the church, helps us in our effort to improve the world in big ways and small. So as has been mentioned, on March 15th, this congregation will join two others, Reno and Albuquerque, in co-ordaining our minister, Kristen Famula. Our board president will offer the official act of ordination, Dylan in the back, on behalf of our congregation, and you are invited to join in person in Albuquerque, in person at a watch party at our congregation here, or via Zoom. We'd especially love to know if you plan to attend in Albuquerque so we can coordinate with those traveling. It's going to be an exciting day, no matter how you choose to be there. Please RSVP. There's an RSVP link in the newsletter. There are a few announcements related to some Great Lakes things happening during the legislative session, and Chalice here knows a little bit more. She's going to offer a few more details. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. We are going to be, so this year, during the legislative session, which started on Tuesday, myself as the environmental ministry representative wanted to convey some great information that is happening. And a lot of this is being organized by First Church down in Salt Lake. I meet with her, and they have a whole environmental ministry. Sorry. They have a whole environmental ministry committee. So what we're going to be doing is they are going to be having, during the legislative session, we're going to have what's called Walk the Waves with First Unitarian Church. And every morning at 8 a.m. outside the state capitol, if you can make it, they're going to circle the state capitol, and you can have signs, you can have banners, people dress up like brine shrimp, like do whatever you want. And then there's also in the afternoon, every Friday, they have a celebratory parade that takes place around the Capitol with the song and costumes and dance as well. So Fridays at 5 p.m. Every morning, they basically have a vigil at 8 a.m. during the session at the state Capitol. You can also get updates each Thursday from 9 to 11:30 in the Copper Room in the Senate building. They have updates on bills related to the Great Salt Lake. And then also they have a monthly Zoom meeting that is set for Monday, February 17th at 7 p.m. with the environmental ministry. If you guys are interested in attending, I can send you the link. Also, after service today, come find me. I have postcards. This is a beautiful picture from Antelope Island that my boss took and let me borrow. And so this is, and you don't even have to write anything. You just need to sign your name and put the address of your legislator, and you can send it to your legislator to let them know your concern about the Great Salt Lake. So I have like 50 of these. So please come and grab some after service. I also have addresses of our Northern Utah state legislatures if you would like that information too. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, a lot going to be happening over the session here. So thank you, Chalice. Few other items. This is a few weeks off, but our monthly Zoom meeting with the UUCO community is set for Monday, February 17th at 7 p.m. Mark it in your calendar. Always remember, Minister Kristen is available. You can reach her at minister@uuco.org. Codger Coffee meets Fridays at 9:30 a.m. at Grounds for Coffee at 30th and Harrison. The book club meets Wednesday, February 19th, and they're reading Emma by Jane Austen. Anyone into that? And many more details are in the newsletter. Our closing hymn today is number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, and that would be in the blue hymnal. And please rise in body or spirits. As the service comes to an end, join me in saying the chalice extinguishing words in your order of service. We extinguish the chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action.
As we leave the space, I would like to leave you with some words that are commonly used to express what church means to Unitarian Universalists around the world. These words are by James Villa Blake. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Go in peace.